difference between a trauma trigger and a healing trigger. The difference between these two types of triggers is that a trauma trigger is very intense psychological, and it can even be a physical reaction to a trauma being triggered, whether this is just one time or over and over several times after the initial traumatic event. Now, healing trigger is something we speak about in spirituality. However, most of the people that speak about this are only just using the word trigger. Okay, so something is triggering you to look within and to explore your shadow side, or the side of you that is unconscious, the side of you that is perhaps uncomfortable with something, or even rejecting something. So, the healing trigger is always calling us to heal. And even though we technically say the same about the trauma trigger, is that the healing trigger comes from things that do not necessarily relate to such an intense traumatic event. It is not a post traumatic kind of reaction, but it has a whole lot more to do just our own inner landscape in a different way. It's a lot more mild, and it's a lot more easier to process. It's a lot more easier to deal with, and it doesn't necessarily cause such a physical and visceral reaction in us. It can still be a reaction, it can still bring about strong emotions, but it's not quite the same. And I think it's about time that we start to use these words differently and separately. Well, maybe also together, in order to understand really what healing is all about, what trauma is, and what is the difference between these kinds of reactions, and just to really learn to know ourselves a little bit better.